In this video, I look at planning appeals where the original form of the dwelling house needs to be identified. This detached house sits on a large plot of land between two major highways running east-west approximately. The appellant applied for a lawful development certificate, an LDC, to build a summer house on the east boundary opposite the main house. The council refused the application. Under E1C, development is not permitted if any part of the building would be situated on land forward of a wall forming the principal elevation of the original dwelling house. The council stated the proposed structure would be situated forward of the principal elevation, considered to be the east-facing elevation. In the appeal inspector's report, the observations made by the inspector appear to relate to the current dwelling house, not to the original dwelling house. The inspector noted the east-facing elevation had the main or architectural features: the front entrance porch, the projecting gable bay, and the windows of the principal rooms on the ground and first floor. The appellant claimed that the main entrance door of the original house was originally on the south elevation and had been moved to the east elevation. However, this claim was given little weight by the inspector in the absence of evidence to support the claim. The inspector considered the east elevation was the principal elevation, and the appeal was dismissed. This detached house sits by a highway running north-south. The appellant applied for an LDC to build a garage plus stable block on the right side of the drive entrance, i.e. south of the house. The council rejected the application, stating the proposed extension would be situated on land forward of a wall forming the principal elevation of the original dwelling house. Upon appeal, the inspector is diligent in identifying the orientation of the original dwelling house with the following comments. The building is identified as in the style of 19th century villa architecture. The south elevation appears principal, as it contains the building's main architectural features, including a three-bay arrangement, central entrance, elaborate facade, and fenestration detail. The other elevations do not have the same architectural detail. Habitable rooms were probably located on the southern side of the property. It's likely that the original orientation of the property was deliberately designed towards the substantial garden because of the building's age and architecture, its origin, and the layout of the curtilage. The inspector concluded the south elevation was the principal elevation, and the appeal was dismissed. This is a substantial dwelling in spacious grounds, which has been substantially altered over the years. The main axis of the building runs north-south. The appellant applied for an LDC to build a 5-car garage to the south of the building. The council refused the application because the proposed garage would be forward of the principal elevation of the main dwelling house, held to be the east elevation. The inspector makes a comment on the council's response. The officer report makes no mention in its assessment as to what the principal elevation of the original dwelling house would have been. Whilst I would not always expect analysis where the principal elevation of the original dwelling house is obvious, for example where limited changes have occurred at a property since its construction, I would have expected some discussion of this point in this case, given the extensive changes that have taken place at the property. The inspector compared two elevations. The north elevation has features which are consistent with being a principal elevation, such as the front door, porch, and windows of habitable rooms. The east elevation has features more likely to be found in a side elevation, such as a chimney breast and the end of a hipped roof. On balance, the inspector considered the principal elevation to be the north elevation and allowed the appeal. Personally, I'm not convinced by reading the appeal decision that a complete and balanced assessment of the various elevations was made by the inspector. For example, in recommending the north elevation, the inspector can't find anything better to say than it has a door, a porch, and windows. There's no description at all. In dismissing the east elevation, the inspector makes a generalization that might be true for suburban architecture, but is completely irrelevant when assessing a property of this size and quality. The chimney stack and gable that are seen here are architectural features worthy of a principal elevation. And the south-facing elevation gets no mention at all, even though I can see from the plans that it has considerable architectural merit. In the technical guidance, possible indicators of the principal elevation include whether the elevation fronts the main highway and whether the elevation has the sense of being the principal elevation. In addition, the east elevation fronts the highway. It provides the pedestrian and vehicle access, and it might appear to be the principal elevation to the first-time visitor. The appeal decision does not convey the sense that a thorough comparison of candidate elevations took place, but that's just my opinion. If you're thinking of pressing the like or subscribe buttons, thank you. Next week, I'm looking at more appeal decisions that required the inspector to review the original structure. Thanks for watching. See you next week.